How do I remove collections from my credit report? This is a frequently asked question regarding credit repair. And we're going to answer that question by bringing in my go-to guy, Jonas Mitchell of Scribble. But before we get him, do me a favor, subscribe to my YouTube channel, make sure to click the bell to get notified. Also, help me out by liking my page on Facebook, and if you don't mind, follow me on Instagram. So we're going to get to Jonas and answer this question starting right now. Hey Jonas, thank you so much for taking time to answer some frequently asked credit repair questions. And I have people come into my office or contact me by phone looking to purchase a house. And we do the loan application, we look at their credit report, and then we see that there are collections on their credit report. These can be utilities, cell phone, credit cards. Oftentimes, the client has no clue that these even existed. So this frequently asked question is, how can I have collections removed from my credit report?
Sure thing, Rod. And this is probably one of the biggest questions that we get as well. So it's a great, thank you for asking it. So let's get into that a little bit. There's one myth behind getting collections removed, Rod, that I want to cover first, and then we'll jump into it. Okay. And that is that if I get a collection account removed, then the debt goes along with it. And that is not exactly the case. So I want people to understand your credit report is simply what's being reported out to the world, but your debts is valid, right? So it's real. If you actually went to a doctor, or you actually went to a cell phone company and purchased that phone, or you actually went to the auto dealership and purchased that car, then that debt is there. So that's never going to go away. And that in their computer system, their loan computer system in that company, your information is there. So that will never go away unless they specifically hit the delete button. Okay. So think about collections for a second. Generally, you get into a collections because you miss some payments, and then after you have gone 60 days without making a payment, that company wants to make sure that other people out there know that, hey, this person might be a potential issue if you're out there, right? Now, once it goes into collections, then it goes into a charge-off. And so once it gets charged off, then that simply means that we have a collection account where the original creditor no longer believes that they're going to be able to collect on that money. So they tell Uncle Sam that they're going to get rid of that account. And they then go to sell that information to debt buyers or debt collectors. And then that's when you start getting like the phone calls and the letters in the mail saying that, hey, we'll give you a 40% discount or whatever. Well, the reason why they can discount that is that original creditor no longer expects you to pay it. So now someone else has bought that from that company for usually like, pennies on the dollar, no more than about 14 cents per account or at least per dollar. And then they turn around and say, hey, here, pay this. And then if they don't collect on it, who cares? It's a numbers game for them. So it is what it is. Now, here's the great part about that. Whenever they send that information over to a third-party debt collector or debt buyer, then at that time, it's very, very rare that all of the information gets transferred. So the way that we go about handling collections is this. The first step we want to do is go to the credit bureaus, and we're going to ask the credit bureau to verify the information that's coming from the original creditor, because any information that's on your credit report, by law, according to the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, that information has to be valid. If it's not valid, the credit bureaus have 30 days to collect any inaccurate information so they can update the information. If they can't update the information within 30 days, then that account has to be deleted no matter what. Okay? So now, knowing that information, we have to look at how the information is processed from the credit bureaus and the creditors. 9 out of 10 times, that information that is actually being reported via computer. So that means that when you look at the credit bureaus, they have a system called OCR, which is optical character recognition. And then they also have something called eOscar. And so with those computer systems, obviously, they're just pulling data from one place into another. And so as we know, computer systems very rarely have the ability to pull all of the accurate information over. There's usually some errors in there. And so that information gets put into the system. So if you come back and challenge it, that's where they have that 30-day opportunity because, oh, maybe the computer system missed something. So now we're going to go through and fix it and get it done. Well, the great part about that is even on the creditor side, because there's so many people handling so many accounts, it's impossible for humans to be able to go through and keep track of all of this information on the creditor side as well. So that information is also coming from a computer. So now we've got a computer on this side saying that you were late 30 days or you were late 60 days or whatever, which obviously we know that computers can make mistakes. Then on the reporting side, we've got computers saying that this information is valid or this information is not valid. So we actually have a play on that information as to how we get rid of collections. So here's how we do it. We've now gone to the credit bureaus and we're going to draft up a letter. And in that letter, all you're going to say is, to whom it may concern, and then you want to tell the truth. So if they're coming to you, Rod, these people most likely want to purchase a home. So all you're going to say is, I'm looking to purchase a home, and I recently pulled my credit report to make sure that I have all of my information in a row, or that all of my information is accurate. And while looking at my credit report, I noticed that there are potentially some inaccuracies. And so if you please don't mind, please verify this information with the original creditor and get back to me. That's all you got to do, okay? So that's paragraph 1. Then we always want to state a reason, and we want to state a instruction to make sure that the credit bureaus know exactly why we're asking them to do this, and then what about this do we want them to do. So on your credit report, you'll see it's like an account, and the account name, account number, and then all the other information. You just want to make sure that on that dispute letter, you have the actual account that you want to dispute and the account number, and it will never be the full number. It's always going to be a truncated number for your privacy. Don't fill in the rest of that number, because if you do, that's just one way for them to know that you're most likely the person who has this account, because how else would you know the entire number, okay? So now we've put that initial opening paragraph. We have the account name, the account number, and then you want to state the reason as to why you're sending in this letter. So the reason is, I have reason to believe that the information that is being reported on my credit report is inaccurate. Please verify with the original creditor. On the instruction, for the instruction, you're simply going to say, if this information cannot be verified with the original creditor, please delete immediately. And if this information is verified, please show me proof. Please show me verifiable proof bearing my signature that this information is valid. Because as we all know, anyone can type up some information. You can do a simple Google search and find somebody's social security number, find where they live. It's not that hard, right? So we want to make sure that they actually have the right person collecting this debt, not just Joe Schmo off the street trying to come after me to get my money. So the credit bureaus will then go through, they'll do their dispute, but remember, the first time that they do it, it's very possible that just a computer system went through and pulled that information. What a lot of people don't know is that the credit bureaus have a bunch of identifier numbers that go through. So your name will have a number, your address will have a number, your phone number will have a number. And so a lot of times they'll do what's called an auto verification, where they take the number from your information, and then they take the number from the creditor, and then they match those two, and then they say, yep, verified, we're good. Well, that's great. If they do that, it's all fair. But what we're going to do is, once you get that letter back from the credit bureau, and it says that this information has been verified by us, now we're going to come back with a second letter. And in that letter, we call it a method of verification letter. And so what we want to do is we just want to go back and say, okay, I've taken a look at this information, and it's still reporting inaccurately. So we're going to go back to the credit bureau one more time, and we're going to say, I received your letter that said that you verified my account, but it's still reporting inaccurately, and that's not fair to me. Please tell me how you verified this information. Who did you talk to? What day did you talk to them? What does that employee? What was the name of the employee that you spoke to specifically? Show me or provide me the proof of my signature. Like, show me the information that actually has my signature, and then show me the proof that this company actually has like the ability to to provide, like to collect on a debt in that state, because a lot of times many debt collectors do not actually have license in all 50 states to collect, but they'll still collect anyway. So if they can't provide that proof, then there's no way that you have to pay that account, because if they do take you to court, then all you're going to do is ask for the exact same information that I just shared with you. So if you go to court, or if they take you to court, then they're able to provide that information, because the court will ask them. And so if they don't have it, then they can't take you to court anyway. Okay. So now we've sent off the method of verification letter. Every now and then you will get a verification on that second round as well. So then what we're going to do, if that happens, we're going to go over to the original creditor, and we're going to ask them to verify the information. Plain and simple. So I want you to keep one thing in mind. If it's the original creditor, you're going to ask them to verify the information. If it's a third-party debt collector, then you're going to ask them to validate the information.
Verify versus validate.
The original creditor verifies the information because they actually have all your information in the system. So they have to verify it. If it's a third party, then you're going to validate, meaning you want to show all that proof. And so from there, all we're going to do is reach out to them and have the exact same method of verification letter that you sent to the credit bureaus. You can take that same letter and send it over to the creditor. Just address it to the creditor instead of the credit bureaus and say, hey, it seems like that you're reporting some inaccurate information on my credit report, and I just want you to verify that this information is accurate. Please provide me. Okay, and then the same things that I just asked, we put to them, you're going to put to the original creditors, and that should be able to get it. If you don't get it at that point, you can always reach out to a consumer attorney. They'll be more than happy to take a look at your case, and if there's any inaccurate information or anything that's invalid about what they're doing throughout that debt collection process, then that consumer attorney will happily open up a lawsuit for you, and it won't cost you any money up front. They'll go ahead and take care of it on the backside if they win your case. And so that's the way that you would get rid of that. I do want to point out one thing, Rod. There's something called a statute of limitations, and every single state is different. And so the statute of limitations simply means, listen, let's say that you had a debt for me, and then I wait 20 years, and then I'm going to take you to court now over the 20 years. Who's going to remember what the heck we did 20 years ago?
Right.
Like, it's impossible. So what the government has done is they said, listen, we want to make sure that if you really want to collect on this debt as a creditor, then you need to do it while it's fresh. People need to remember this stuff. So it's easy to find. Just Google statute of limitations and then your state, wherever you are, and just find the statute of limitations for collecting on a debt. So if it's inside the statute of limitations and you get the information removed from your credit report, then you can almost expect to get a lawsuit done against you, because that's the only way that creditor feels that they're going to be able to collect on that debt, because the pressure of putting it on your credit report is now gone. So you really don't have any reason whatsoever to pay that debt unless you just feel like being a generous person. And so now you're going to go through and pay it. But if you don't do it that way, then there's no way for that creditor to be able to come after you for their money. So they have something called the statute of limitations. If it's, let's say, 3 years, inside that 3 years, if you challenge that debt, that information on your credit report, and it comes off, then again, the debt itself is still valid, so they can take you to court, provide the proof that you owe that money, and they can collect. If it's outside the statute of limitations, then it's free game. There's nothing that they can do. Even if you do owe that debt, there's no way that they can come after you to collect it. They can still send you letters in the mail and things like that, but that's the best that they can do, and that's just the way it goes. So our rule of thumb with our company is if it's under $1,000, $1,500 max, it's fairly safe. Doesn't mean that you can't get sued. I have seen people get sued for a $600 account. So it's really your choice as to whether or not you want to challenge some information that's on your account inside the statute of limitations. Anything outside, free game. Inside, not so much. And so to finish this out, Rod, let's say now we've gone to the original credit bureau and we got the original verification, and then we got that second verification. We're going to hold on to both of those credit reports. And usually what happens is once they've verified the method of verification on that second round, they'll update some information. And so once they update the information, you're just going to circle anything that's different from that original credit report, because remember, we asked them to verify it the first time.
Right.
So now that they've gone through and actually done the real investigation, now they update the information. Well, no, that's actually a violation according to the FCRA. So we just circle any information on that second credit report that's different from the first one. We send that information back to the credit bureaus, and it's a very simple letter. Hi, to whom it may concern, I asked you to verify this information the first time around, and you said that all of the information was accurate. I then asked you to verify your method of how you did it, and you made some changes. According to the FCRA, that's a violation, and if you don't delete this information now, I'm going to be forced to hire an FCRA attorney or a consumer attorney, and we're going to have to fight this, and we'll take you to court, because every single item that's changed, according to the law, is worth $1,000 fine. So if you don't remove this information, we're going to have to be forced to take action.
Wow.
And that's that.
Wow, man. So there's a plan. There is a process to doing that. This can take, guys, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to do, but there are steps, as Jonas laid out, to make this happen. In the description below, you will find addresses for the credit bureaus, as well as helpful links to help get you started. Also, there will be information if you want to get in touch with Jonas and have a professional take care of this for you. Jonas, thank you so much for taking time to answer this question.
Sure, my pleasure, Ryan.